everyone, welcome to the Etiquette and Protocol channel. I'm Juliana Santiago, and today we're going to talk a little about the habits of annoying people. Those habits that annoying, inconvenient, unpleasant people always have. So here I've selected 15 mistakes and practices, habits, quirks of annoying people. Certainly, if you have any of these, it's a good idea to reflect on them and try to improve, to work on your behavior. The first one is really gossiping. People who gossip all the time or even constantly speak badly about others are considered annoying and seen as unpleasant by the group they're in. So that person who only knows how to talk by speaking badly about others, spreading negative gossip, something that can harm other people, whether or not they're related to that group. Unusual people or even outsiders can be seen as annoying or unpleasant people. Because the person who gossips about someone or who speaks badly about someone else in front of you is probably gossiping about you too when you're not around. So be careful, because people end up seeing you that way, and you become not only an annoying person, but also someone who isn't trustworthy. A person who even wishes bad things on other people. And I believe that nobody wants to be seen that way. Another thing that annoying people always do is, what are they like? Negative, bad-tempered people. So it's that person who's at a party, and often they're never really involved in what's going on, they're never enthusiastic, and they don't talk to others in a way that makes the conversation interesting. No matter how simple the conversation is, it's essential that you have humor and lightness to go through the process. So be careful when you're talking to someone not to be a negative person, bad-tempered, or someone who only complains. So it's important to pay attention to that, talking a little about conversation practices and how annoying people have negative habits related to communication. The first thing an annoying person does is be the kind of person who is the only one talking. Many people are considered completely unpleasant simply because they are the only ones dominating that group and that circle of people. So the conversation is only about her topics, it's only about what she does. What she does is always more interesting, the place she traveled to is always the coolest, the experiences she had are always the best. And then continuing with another aspect also related to the communication of an annoying person, because here we can point out several aspects. It's that person who acts like a teacher. So only she knows things, only she knows about a certain subject. Only she knows which is the best salon, only she knows which is the best restaurant in town. Only she knows which is the best school, only she knows which is the best team. Anyway, she knows the best everything. She's the smartest person in the universe. And the biggest mistake you can make is thinking that you are someone who knows too much about everything. Because life is a constant learning process. You have to be open to new lessons and put yourself in that position. If you believe that you already know everything about everything, you are really falling behind. So always think that there's something you can learn. The other person can always teach you something too. Even if it's just a point of view about something you haven't noticed or even analyzed the perspective related to that topic. So be careful. If you come across as too smart, you might be seen as an annoying person. Someone nobody wants to have a pleasant conversation with. Another point also related to the communication of an annoying person is that, as I already mentioned, we can point out several aspects and habits related to the communication of an annoying person. It's that person who always makes negative comments. So they're always someone who brings up the negative side of what others say. For example, someone says to you, "Wow, I love this restaurant. It was a wonderful experience." And the person is there, really happy to share it with you. And then you come and say, "Wow, I hate this restaurant. No, this restaurant is really, really bad." Then the person tells you, wow, I took the trip, I went to Gramado, for example. Wow, but Gramado is really bad. Wow, but Gramado is really bad. So it's that person who brings a negative vibe to everything you say. Everything you say, she says no, she always disagrees. So be careful with that. This is something that really bothers people, especially when someone is sharing an experience or something that was important to them. When someone is telling you about something that was really significant in their life, and you start making negative comments or always disagreeing, this can end up hurting you. Another issue also related to an annoying habit is that person who talks while touching the other person all the time. This is something that really bothers people, and those who have this habit often don't realize it. So when you talk to someone else, there's no need for you to hold their attention by touching and leaning on them the whole time. You need to keep some distance. In body language techniques, there's what we can call social distance, which is the necessary distance for two people to communicate comfortably, each in their own space. When we get closer to people, we start to enter a bit into this intimate area. Especially when you're establishing connections with people you're not close to, getting into that intimate area can feel like an invasion of privacy. So you need to stay in that social zone, so be careful about touching the person there. It's really annoying. The person is already paying attention to what you're saying. You don't need to keep calling their attention all the time. It's very, very unpleasant. Another aspect, also a habit, of an annoying person. An annoying person usually doesn't look others in the eye. She can't maintain eye contact. Why? Because since she's usually that person who's a bit crazy, she doesn't listen when other people are talking. She's not interested, and she doesn't show it in a practical way. Many times she doesn't show it just through words, like making negative comments or even gossiping or not caring about what you say. But she also expresses it through body language, which is something that everyone who is annoying does. You can notice that this person's body language is a body language that needs to be evaluated, it needs to be improved. So eye contact is one of the body language practices that shows a lot about how you feel and the attention you give to others. So it's as if the eye, our ability to look, is the window to receive other people there. So when you are communicating and relating to people, be careful with how you make eye contact. Of course, you don't need to stare into someone's eyes without blinking the whole time. But you need to maintain, at least for a minimum amount of time, focused attention on that person's eyes, especially when the other person is speaking. When we're talking, when it's your turn to speak, you might end up turning away. Because at that moment when you're telling a story, it's normal for us to have those expressions. But when the other person is talking, showing that you're paying attention is essential. And eye contact will definitely be the key point for you to show that. And to be seen as someone who is truly interested and not as an annoying person. Annoying people are often seen as rude. So one thing connects to another and it all comes together like a puzzle. And annoying people usually make a lot of mistakes when it comes to good manners. So even little keywords like thank you, please, a greeting, those kinds of practices. Annoying people don't have that habit. It's that person who comes into a place and is able to say, hi everyone, how are you? How are things with you all? That person who, when you get in the elevator, comes in and says, press 3 for me, is unable to say a magic word. Or please. And these practices of simple words, of basic manners, that we often end up teaching children, yes, they are missing from the package when it comes to that. What is an annoying person? And what if you want to become a new version of yourself? If you want to be seen as a confident person, a pleasant person, someone who promotes good relationships through consideration, respect, and empathy for others. I invite you to learn about our Etiquette and Good Manners course from the Etiquette and Protocol Institute. The course which I actually teach is a complete course where I talk about all the processes of etiquette and good manners. And how are you going to apply this in real situations, in modern life, and in our daily routine? The link is right here. In the description, you can click and get to know our school. I'll be waiting for you there. One thing we need to understand is that annoying people usually like to draw attention to themselves. Because everything about her, especially her child, is better and more special. It's the best school, she goes to the best restaurants, she goes to the best places. She's that person whose life is the best life, the life you'd like to have. So they are people who usually like to draw attention during the process. Even when everyone is quiet, they're the kind of person who likes to disturb the environment. So I'm sure you'll agree that an annoying person is someone who chews gum with a height and a volume a little above normal. It's someone who has habits like picking up a pen, tapping, snapping their fingers. When everyone is quiet, the person manages to develop some habit to get attention. That's really annoying because people get bothered, especially in environments where you need to share with others. So workplaces or even a bus, public transportation. That's something that an annoying person does. They have this habit. It's a habit they develop because they have this need to get attention. So pay attention to that. Pay attention to the habits you have. Some people have a habit of doing things with their mouth, things with their fingers, things with a pen, and so on. It's a tic that we often talk about here. But we really need to pay attention to it because it can really interfere with your development and your relationships with other people. Still talking about annoying people's habits and processes, things that annoying people do. There is one that, in my opinion, deserves special attention, which is really chewing with your mouth open. So this practice of chewing with your mouth open, annoying people, they chew with their mouths open, they talk with food in their mouths, because it's the issue I've mentioned before. They need attention. So this is seen as an annoying habit, a habit that many times may seem simple to you, but it ends up pushing people away from you. And then this creates a barrier between you and other people. And then when it combines with other aspects, especially those related to behavior, things you do, the way you act, it all adds up. This starts putting together a puzzle. And the person comes to the conclusion that you really are an unpleasant person. Annoying people usually don't have good body language habits. They are people who, even when they're silent, we can still get a negative impression of who they are. So be careful with that. Every time you talk to someone, not just with your eyes, as already mentioned here in this video, but all these aspects of body language will influence whether people see you as a pleasant person, as someone who is present, engaged in that environment, participative, and willing to communicate with others. So it's not just what you actually say, but also what you say with your body when your voice isn't active. So even when you're not there, speaking words and saying things, your body also has this ability to communicate. Your gaze is, for me, a key aspect of body language. But also the way you sit, the way you position your arms, the way you direct your body. All of this will influence how others perceive you in a positive way. Annoying people have the habit of bragging, so theirs is always the best, the most interesting, the most beautiful. And they are people who can't put others first. They are people who always put themselves first. Every time you want to be seen as someone who communicates well, you should always put the other person first. What the other person says should always be seen as something more interesting. Whenever you talk to someone, put the other person on a pedestal, elevate them. That way, at a level of importance in relation to yourself, as if everything the other person says, everything they say, is important to you, is interesting to you. So when you put that in your mind and work on it, you can show interest in other people. And boring people are usually people who are interested in others. Because she thinks her life is the best of all, she has this habit of bragging. She speaks in the eye communication way, right? It's not communication related to others, it's communication related to herself. Communication that comes from within her, where she brags and talks highly about her life all the time. Another issue about the behavior of annoying people is that they always feel the need to win an argument. When we argue with someone, you don't necessarily have to reach a common ground with that person. When you go to make your point, things you think about a certain topic, the other person doesn't have to come to the same conclusion as you, because we are different people who think in different ways, who were raised in different ways, who have had different life stories. So all of this makes us a diverse society. So something that you truly believe is X doesn't necessarily have to be X for someone else too. And many times you can, yes, express your points of view. And it can happen that people turn around and go along with your opinion and change their point of view. But it can happen that in some situations you can't win that possible argument, win that point of view, or make people change their opinion about a certain topic. That can be something difficult. So don't think that you always have to be right in a discussion and that the other person must always agree with what you say. Your opinion is always sovereign. Be careful with that. This causes a lot of conflicts and many problems related to relationships and the ways people interact with each other. And it's interesting for us to mention, even as an etiquette rule, that when you notice a discussion is escalating, is growing, is going a bit too far, it's a good idea to stop right there, because you could end up losing your friendship or your relationship with that person because of a point of view that you tried to convert the whole time, but unfortunately it ended up growing and turning into something much bigger. So be careful. And remember, people won't always agree with you or have the same point of view as you on a certain topic. Another thing that also becomes a habit of annoying people is that annoying people have a bit of trouble following any kind of protocol. So they're people who usually don't have the habit of following rules. They always want to do things their own way. If, for example, so sometimes you go to someone's house and at your friend's house, they have the habit of taking off their shoes, but you're against that. You can't adapt to other environments, to other cultures, to other situations, because you think the way you handle a certain process is always the most correct way and the way that makes the most sense. So the lack of flexibility can turn you into an annoying person, because many times you won't be able to fit in with specific protocols established for that situation, and people will end up avoiding you because they know you just don't fit in there. We have all kinds of annoying people, and for sure we're going to have that type of annoying person who doesn't add anything, so it ends up being that annoying person who has nothing to talk about. If you're someone who has trouble introducing topics in social settings, whenever you go somewhere, it's important to have a few topics up your sleeve to talk to people, even with people you're not close to, when you're developing relationships in that moment. In fact, right here on the side, I'll leave a video for you to watch next, which is a video about how to talk to people you're not close to, how to introduce topics with people you don't have much of a habit of communicating with, people you met at a party, met at someone's house, or maybe you went to a bar and wanted to start a conversation with someone. This video right here on the side will definitely help you a lot, and you can watch it right after this one. Well, I'll stop here and I want to hear from you. Which of these practices do you think is the most annoying? Comment below, I want to know. See you later.